Well, welcome to the first of four videos that talk about frames and framing. And what we're going to do during this particular video is cover some of the key terms associated, the lesson objectives associated with framing, and set the stage. We'll even have a reference to the Born series. How cool is that? All right, let's get into the lesson objectives that we're going to have, and these really cover chapters 1 and 2 in the book, so that's where you would find the material associated with this. So we're going to look at folks looking at the world through a single perspective, and then see why that sometimes leads to challenges. Talk about reframing. I have a great example of that in a follow-on video looking at a robbery scenario. Then we'll start talking about each of the four frames: structural, human resource, political, and symbolic. Talk about some ways that folks make mistakes when they're looking at organizational problems, looking at the three oversimplified concepts and four characteristics, why those things don't work. We'll then go back and look at the concept of organizational learning from three different perspectives. And then finally start talking a little bit about mental maps in terms of dealing with ambiguity as we're going forward. And we'll have a little bit of fun with this. We get to see one of the most beloved and favorite comedy sketches from Abbott and Costello. The Who's on First scenario to explain mental models, and we'll also look at the Black Hawk challenges that we had during the Iraq War in terms of being shot down, and again how different mental models combined to that resulted in that particular disaster. Okay, so that's kind of an overview of what we're going to be doing over the next couple of lessons. Let's look at a couple of key terms now. So, frames, this kind of cognitive lens by which we're looking at the world and seeing and what does it mean interpreting the world. Reframing says you can look at different situations different ways, and that leads to the ability to solve problems. You know, the old adage, if your only tool is a hammer, every problem is a nail. And so reframing says every problem is not a hammer. Some problems are better for a saw. Some problems are better solved with a screwdriver. And so reframing allows you to use those different tools, those different perspectives, if you will, to solve problems. Structural frame is one of four, and this is where we're looking at organizations based on the architecture of that organization, authority and roles and responsibilities and organization charts and how we allow people to interact. Human resource frame says, well, that's all important. Why don't we look at instead people, what strengths and weaknesses they have? How can we lead them? And you'll hear adages such, you know, the best way to lead people is to treat them all completely differently, but completely fairly. And that way you're emphasizing their strengths, minimizing their weaknesses, building a team. Great book on this called Team of Rivals that catalogs the cabinet of Abraham Lincoln. Well worth the read. Political frame. This idea that when you're looking at an organization there will always be scarce resources, and because there's scarce resource there will be competition and conflict for those scarce resources. And then finally the symbolic frame. All of the world is but a stage, and we are actors and actresses upon that stage. And the symbolic frame allows us to look at an organization from that perspective. Okay, two last comments here, or definitions that we need to understand. The first of which is this system map. It's a visual map of what's going on within a particular system. And then framing effect, which looks at how relatively small changes in some situation or a problem can result in significant differences in how people respond to that scenario. So here, let's use an example from the movies to look at framing. Again, frame is this kind of a mental model. It's kind of ideas and assumptions that you carry around in your head. It happens in a blink. And if you think of the Bourne movies, Jason Bourne walks into a room, very fast, very holistic, almost non-conscious, if you will, assessment of what's going on in the room, and then that results in him making judgments and making decisions. And you might argue that Jason is operating within a different frame than you and I normally operate within. And there are lots of other examples. Sherlock Holmes is another great example where he's observing and sensing things that others are not, and that's leading to very different decisions. So let's pause, or let's bring to a close this introduction to frames. And what we're going to do next is do an awareness test. How cool is this? So I'll go ahead and finish this off and get excited about a little hands-on awareness test.